Hey there, it's Marley. Welcome to my booktube channel. Today I'm going to be doing the end of the year reading survey. This is kind of like a tag similar to the mid-year freakout tag, but you do it at the end of the year. I think the first year I did it was last year. Most popularly, I see Kayla from Books and Lala do it, but she takes questions from Perpetual Page Turner and she chooses some different questions to do. So I'll have that linked below, a list to all the questions. I went with a lot of the similar questions she does. Basically, it's just a little survey on your reading for the year to find out, favorites, least favorites, trends in your reading, stuff like that. So let's get into it. The first question is, how many books did you read and did you meet your goal? Obviously, I am filming and uploading this a little bit before the end of the year, but right now I'm sitting at 96 books read and my goal was 100 books. So I think I will definitely be able to read 4 more books before the end of the year, maybe a few more than that. So yes, I have met my goal. What is your most read genre? Now, technically this could change before the end of the year, but as of right now, my most read genre is fantasy, which is exciting. It was 33.3% fantasy that I read, and the second highest, which is coming in pretty close, is thriller, which I'm not shocked about, at 29.2. These are my favorite 2 genres, so it definitely makes sense I read the most from these because I like YA and adult books from both of these genres. So I'm interested in what I did last year. Maybe I should pull up last year's too. Oh, I think last year was thriller. So I've upped my fantasy read this year, which does make sense because I had such a focus on reading my physical TBR. And a lot of the books I physically own are fantasies. I talked about this earlier this year. I just think it's more fun to buy fantasy books, especially when they're a series, and then display it on my shelf like you can see behind me. I think I don't like buying thrillers maybe as much because once you read them once, you're not really likely to return to them. But it is interesting to see that shift. Longest and shortest books you read. Okay, I'm gonna have to check this. So the shortest book I read was actually recently, and it was Carmilla. This was the gothic classic about the vampire Carmilla. It actually, I think, is considered like a kind of like a short story. So yeah, you probably just heard me talk about that in my wrap up. The longest book that I read was Chain of Thorns, which I'm not gonna pull down from my shelf right now, so I'll have to insert a picture. But it was the 3rd and final book in the Last Hour series by Cassandra Clare. That book was long, and I feel like I remember thinking it was too long. I think I technically rated this 4 stars, but I know looking back and self-reflecting that was a biased rating and it probably does deserve to be lower, like even a 3.5 or a 3, just because this was a little bit of a disappointing book. I know a lot of people felt that way. It was one of the more disappointing finales from Cassandra Clare, unfortunately, and the length was not really needed. So yeah, it just beat out A Court of Silver Flames. That was also a long one. And then the 3rd longest was another Cassandra Clare book, was Swordcatcher. Favorite book published in 2023. Well, since I just mentioned it and it's right here, I really enjoyed Swordcatcher. This obviously came out in 2023 and I just thought it was a really fun time. Once I got past the info dumping and the overwhelming amount of world building and information you were getting in the first couple 100 pages, I did really enjoy the characters. I was intrigued by this world and the relationships, and also a lot of the politics and drama going on. I'm not huge on political stuff, but I am definitely intrigued by the mystery in this. There's kind of some things going on and we don't know who's behind it, and I just love a mystery. And if you don't know, this follows Cal, who lives in this world with royalty, and he ends up becoming the prince's sword catcher, which is like his bodyguard. He basically is supposed to catch these swords that are meant for the prince. The story goes from there. Another favorite release that came out this year was Five Survive by Holly Jackson. She is another one of my favorite authors and like an automatic 5-star, but it is definitely deserved with this one. I read it a while ago. This came out more towards the beginning of the year, but I do just remember that it was a wild ride, very, very fast paced and quite twisty. If you by chance don't know what it's about, we're following a group of friends in this like RV. I think they're going camping or they're making their way somewhere. They end up getting held up and this person holds them at gunpoint, like with a sniper or whatever, holds their RV at gunpoint and is threatening them if they don't reveal this secret that one of them knows. It's this mystery of like which one of these people in the bus is hiding a secret and what is the secret and like why are these people trying to kill them or like find out their secret. Anyways, I don't even know if I fully remember what the twist it ended up being in this one, but I know that it was shocking, it was twisty, very fast paced, had some unlikable characters, and it was a fun time. If you liked Holly Jackson's first series, I feel like this is quite different from her first book, so it's worth checking out and seeing if you like it. The next question is favorite debut book in 2023. I think what the question means is for like a book that did debut in 2023, but I don't think I had any favorites from debut authors in 2023. However, I did read Aiden Thomas's debut book, even though it didn't come out this year. It's still a debut I read in 2023. Anyways, I'm confusing myself, but I just really loved Cemetery Boys. This is another 5-star read for me. It was just so nice for this actually to live up to the hype that I had seen it get. We're following Yadriel, who is a trans boy in this Brujo community. The community is finding it hard to accept him as a Brujo because he's trans. So he's trying to prove himself and he ends up doing this ritual that ends up summoning the ghost of this boy named Julian. And so that is like a little romance that goes on, but there's also like all this adventure stuff. There's also mystery because some boys or some people are going missing in the community, so they're trying to figure out what's going on with that. It was very cute. I really liked learning about the culture here as well. Favorite book not published this year. I guess technically Cemetery Boys could have counted for that, but I'm gonna go with Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo. This is an adult fantasy. Similar to Swordcatcher, I feel like it took me a minute to get into it. I feel like that's going to be common with most adult fantasies because you're having to learn so much about this world. But once I was in it, like, I was obsessed. Like, and looking back at it, I'm like, I love this. Like, I love what this is doing. It is a fantasy dark academia book where we're following this girl who goes to Yale, and she has this really dark past and mysterious past, but she has this power where she sees ghosts. So that's why she was chosen to join Yale and join the secret society. Basically, she joins the 9th house of their societies, which they are meant to be like the guardians of the other secret societies. All of the different societies have different magical powers. So there's a lot of ghosty stuff, ritual, witchy stuff. We also have a murder mystery plot going on. Again, coming back to how I always love a mystery plot. And our main character, Alex, is investigating it along with a cop, a local cop. It's just fantastic. So if you can get through kind of that info dumping stuff again, and if you're into dark books, then I'm just going to keep recommending this book whenever I can. Next up is a book that lived up to the hype. All of these questions, I'm just going to be repeating these books in my best books of the year, I think. But that would be Raven Boys by Maggie Stiefvater. So this has been hyped up for so many years for me. Because when did this book come out? Let's fact check that. 2012? So yeah, like 10 years, over 10 years, I've been hearing about this series online in the bookish community. I never got to it until this year. I read the whole series. It definitely lived up to the hype. Like, this book was 5 stars and the remaining books in the series all were like 4s or like highly rated. It's so unique, and I think if you like weird books and like paranormal stuff, you'll like this book. Also, if you like non-traditional romances or like relationships and then like friendships, found family. Also, it's just like a very funny book as well. Like, Maggie Stiefvater's writing, I've read some other books from her and they weren't this funny, but something about these characters or whatever was just so fun to read. Definitely lived up to the hype. And I think even if, you know, you're over the YA moment, I still think you would probably maybe like this. A book that did not live up to the hype. So I already touched on this one. Court of Silver Flames by Sarah J. Maas did not live up to the hype for me. So many of the girlies absolutely love this book. So many people consider this their favorite book of the series, I think, but it did not do it for me. If you don't know, this is a fantasy series with a lot of romance and it deals with fairies. I loved the first 2 books in this series, so I was into the hype at that point. But, you know, then we had the 3rd book, and then now this is the 4th one, and we changed who we're following. So we're now following our character Nesta, and her romance with Cassian, and I really like those characters, especially Nesta. Like, I'm here for her. I'm here for a lot of the story that happened in this revolving around Nesta and her friends, but I think I only rated this like a 3-star because it's just way too smutty for me. That is my main memory from this book, is that it was the smuttiest book I've ever read, and it was just too much for me. I think it was also just too long. I can't remember if it was only the smut or if I had other critiques about it, but basically it just did not live up to the hype. Next book I'm gonna put a photo of as well because I have hidden it away. I could probably get rid of it, but I've hidden it in the other room because I don't want to display it, and that is The Maid by, I think it was Nina Prose or something. I think I gave this like 2 stars or 2.5. It did not live up to the hype. It was a very hyped book, I think last year, because now the sequel is coming out this year. It's about a maid who starts to get blamed for this murder at her hotel just because she was like, she found the body, and it's like a cozy mystery is what it's supposed to be. Like, my main issue with this was Molly's characterization. I spoke about this earlier in the year when I read it, but Molly reads as potentially on the spectrum, but at the same time I found it very offensive. I am not an Own Voices reviewer by any means, but I have heard some Own Voices people not love it. I've also heard some people love it and think it was great. So there's a lot of, you know, polarizing opinions on this. I'm on the side where I found it offensive. They were kind of like infantilizing her, but they never acknowledged that she might be on the spectrum, but yet we're making her have those qualities and trying to, I don't know, pass it off as this like, oh, I'm just this quirky girl. But it was honestly uncomfortable for me to read. The actual writing is easy to read. I don't think it took me long, but I found it to be like offensive and not great. Also, I think the reveals and the mystery and the twists, I don't think those were very impressive either. So just overall a disappointing book. Next question is book that felt like the biggest accomplishment. So one of the things I'm going to say for this question is the Harry Potter series. I've never read the Harry Potter series, which is kind of shocking as a reader, but my boyfriend has these books on his shelf, so I've finally been reading them this year. So obviously I feel like that's a pretty big accomplishment. I've loved the movies for so many years, so it feels good to finally read the source material, even though there's obviously some controversy surrounding the author. Yeah, I've read the first 3 books so far, and I'm going to continue with the rest of the series. Another book I felt accomplished reading is right here, and it is The Scorpio Races, again by Maggie Stiefvater. This has been on my shelf for so many years, and that's why I felt so accomplished to finally read it. I think I read it in a themed reading blog where I read the oldest books on my shelf, so it felt so good to finally read this and get it off my TBR cart. When did this one come out? 2011, so it actually came out before The Raven Boys. It's been a long time coming. Unfortunately, I did not love it as much as The Raven Boys, but it was a very unique story and might be more for the horse girls out there. Favorite character? So not a ton of characters stood out to me this year. Maybe because I read so many thrillers too, and like, I don't think the characters are as memorable in thrillers because normally they're more plot-based. But a character that did stand out to me was, again, we're gonna mention Gansey from The Raven Boys. I actually love the whole crew in this series. I love Blue, love Gansey. Did grow to like Adam, even though I hated him at first. Ronan as well. But Gansey's the one that really stood out to me. I just found him so like charming and charismatic. Because the other characters got so much of a focus later on in the books, I found myself missing hearing from Gansey, who was more of a main focus in the first book and then took more of a back seat later. I just love a character who is just like so charming and popular, and you know, he is rich as well and very privileged, but then he's also like so nice, I feel. So just love that. Another character I think was very funny would have to be Nurse Rambo from the TJ Klune book, In the Lives of Puppets. Why couldn't I think of that? But this deals with a lot of like robots, and Nurse Rambo was this nurse robot whose purpose was to obviously like be a nurse and heal people and help them, but she was like so funny and like so rude and mean, and it was just very entertaining. She was definitely the highlight of that book for me. Least favorite character, I'm gonna say Pumpkin. Pumpkin was definitely up there for worst characters. He is from How to Sell a Haunted House by Grady Hendrix. You know, you shouldn't hate books or dislike books just because the characters are unlikable, right? But this is a book where like it did disappoint me in other ways, but also I just could not stand reading about Pumpkin. Like I really detested that creature. If you know, you know, and let's make it a gang up and hate on Pumpkin comment section. Let's do it because I really just hate that little puppet. Another character I absolutely loathed this year would be from The Troop by Nick Cutter, and that would be Shelly was his name. This is about a group of boys. They're all Boy Scouts and they get like stranded on this island where there's this like terrifying things happening to them. And Shelly is one of those boys, but unfortunately he is not one of the boys that you are gonna root for. He is terrible. He's a terrible person. He's one of the other things they need to fear on this island. And yeah, I just really hated him. Obviously he was meant to be hated. He was meant to be a villain, psychopath in this book, but I have to mention him. I have to mention him here for this question. And I don't recommend this book, by the way. Next up, we have most shocking book or most shocking moment. You know what? I'm gonna say The Only One Left by Riley Sager. I think he really pulled it out with this book. It was 5 stars. There were so many twists. Not all of them were the most shocking, but I feel like a lot of them were. I feel like if you read this, like you were shocked at one point because there were so many twists by the end. It's been a while since I talked about this book, but we're following this woman who's like a caretaker, and she ends up being given this job to care for this old woman who lives in this house. And this woman, there were rumors and speculations that she had murdered her entire family when she was younger because her whole family was slaughtered and she was the only one left. But there was never any proof. So she's just been living here, you know, pretty much alone in this house with her, you know, cook and housekeeper and stuff like that. So our main character joins the crew and starts looking after this woman. She's a little bit afraid because she's like, what if this woman is a murderer? But the woman decides to end up telling her the entire story of her past. So we're, you know, having those flashback moments where we figure out what really happened all these years ago to this family that got murdered. It was just such a great time. I love Riley Sager, as you know, and I think even people who didn't love his last couple releases would appreciate this one. I feel like it's classic Sager, and the haunted house vibes, the creepiness, it's all there. Favorite couple or OTP? I know I've mentioned this book a couple times. I'm just gonna quickly go over it again. Blue and Gansey from The Raven Boys. Can you tell this book's like on my mind? And honestly, there's another ship in this book too that is pretty cute, but whatever, I won't spoil because it's a little spoilery. It doesn't come till later, but Blue and Gansey I just found so cute, and I love the whole like star-crossed lovers like forbidden to be together, because if you don't know, the initial premise of this book is that Blue has been told her entire life that she is going to kiss her true love and it's going to kill him. So she is like forbidden from kissing anyone because she doesn't want them to die. Just a great dynamic. Another ship I absolutely loved was Jacob and Brianna from Yours Truly. This was my favorite romance I read this year by Abby Jimenez. I just found these two so cute, and I honestly need to reread it because I need to revisit this, but I feel like Jacob was such a sweetheart, and Brianna also is such a great character. She goes through a lot in this book. They honestly both do. It gets pretty angsty, but I just love the support and like constant love they have for each other. So the best written book you read this year. I have to mention Taylor Jenkins Reid for this. Carrie Soto is back. Taylor Jenkins Reid is such a good writer, in my opinion. She writes such interesting stories, explores such interesting themes, creates great characters, so many characters that are like really morally gray, great relationships. This specifically focuses a lot on a father-daughter relationship. The romance is very cute. Just has to be one of the best books, one of the best written books that I read this year. I really would recommend it to everyone. I think it has great readability for such a wide audience, as it does deal with a famous tennis player, and there's so much talk about tennis and the game of tennis and the training, and I don't care about sports, I don't care about tennis, and this will make you care about tennis, and you'll also learn a lot from it, and you're not gonna get bored. Like, it's just written so well. It's so great. Like, if you're looking for a Christmas gift for someone this year and you just need to get them some sort of book, get them this. Get them like any of her books, honestly. Favorite book cover this year? Okay. I feel like I've mentioned this before, but I really do like the covers of the Folk of the Air series. So this is the first one, Cruel Prince. I just love the aesthetic of like the white background and then like the cute little designs. The whole series has this kind of vibe and I just find it very pretty. Another cover I really love of a book I read this year is The Weight of Blood by Tiffany D. Jackson. I feel like it's so intriguing. Like it's so cool with the girl in the back and then the blood dripping down. Obviously very Carrie, as this is a Carrie inspired story. Yeah, I don't know. This is a cover I liked as well. Favorite adaptation. Oh my gosh, I could go on about this. Okay, first of all, Heartstopper season 2. Perfection. I love this show so much. I have to just binge the show in one sitting because it's so cute. I need to go back and rewatch it. But yeah, I also binged the graphic novels very quick, so I didn't have like a super great memory of everything. Like I don't know exactly how accurate it was in certain things. I know they did change some things weren't in the book, but I think what they adapted is just so good and they're adding to it so much. I mean, it's no wonder because Alice Oseman literally like writes the show as well, but just so great. I don't know what else to say. Like, you need to watch it. I also really like the Red, White, and Royal Blue adaptation. This is from the book by Casey McQuiston, of course. This is an adult romance book that was adapted, and it's a gay romance as well between the Prince of England and then the son of the President of the United States, who in this world is a woman. Of course, it's like a little bit cringy at times. Like, it wasn't gonna be perfect, but I actually found it to be quite funny in some points. I feel like they did the story as well as they could to include as much as they could. Of course, they didn't include everything because there wasn't time. I also thought that the chemistry was pretty great between the two main leads, and I think they both did a great job. So I was definitely on Red, White, and Royal Blue TikTok for a while after that movie came out. I also just recently saw The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, and I did read this book 3 years ago. So again, I didn't remember every single detail going in, but from what I do remember, they did a really good job adapting it, making sure the pacing was pretty good between the two halves of the story, the Hunger Games and then post-Hunger Games. I think the guy who played Snow did great. The girl who played Lucy did great. I just think it was overall a really good adaptation. So see the movie or read the book. Either way, I think you're gonna get the story across. So I was happy with that. Next up, what book made you cry the most? I don't think I was crying that much, but a book that did get to me was If We Were Liars by M.L. Rio. In particular, the ending scene or the ending like twist or whatever really got to me. And this is a dark academia book again. It really has to do with like Shakespeare because we're following these people in college who are majoring in theater and doing all these Shakespeare plays, but we know that in the future one of these people got arrested or convicted for one of the other people's murder. So we're going back in time trying to figure out who really killed this person because the person who was charged was innocent. So we love a mystery, we love a bunch of friends on the drama. You know, it's giving In My Dreams I Hold a Knife. And as I said, the twist at the end, devastating. So what book made you laugh the most? I'm just gonna quickly say these two because I've already mentioned them a million times. The Raven Boys, very funny. In the Lives of Puppets by TJ Klune was also very funny. While not my favorite book because I gave it around a 3-star, it still was quite funny. A new favorite author you discovered this year. I definitely had a few. So a few that I never read from before this year would definitely be Aiden Thomas, who I mentioned before. And I know he has a few other releases that I'm interested in now. I don't think his other releases have gone over as well as this one has, and I know they're all kind of like YA middle grade, but I honestly would still like to get to them because I love this one so much. Another one is Abby Jimenez. Again, I already mentioned her. I also read A Part of Your World this year too, which was also a romance I really loved, in addition to Yours Truly. I'm not as interested in her backlisted books because I don't hear the best things, but I think I will read from her with any new releases going forward. As for some other authors who became favorites this year that I had read before, but they just became favorites this year, making it complicated for myself. We're gonna throw this up again. Maggie Stiefvater, I read from her before, but now she has to be a fave after the Raven cycle. Also, Leigh Bardugo. I read her Grishaverse series, of course, before this year, and they were kind of mid for me, but now I feel like she's kind of a fave. Like, you know, this really went off. Now we have Guilty Pleasure of the Year. That's gonna be the Cara Ball series. I'm holding up third one, Finale, but yeah, I think I didn't read Caraval this year, but I read the second and third one at the beginning of the year, and these are just fun YA fantasy books. I can see why they wouldn't be for everyone, but they piqued my interest. I really had a fun time reading them, so this would be a little bit of a guilty pleasure, but I feel like people would maybe judge me for loving these. Another one would be The Arrangement by Kirsten Modulin. Again, I described it recently as like a popcorn thriller. It's maybe not like the best quality, but it's like you will eat it up. Like it will really entertain you for the day. There's so many crazy twists that are just ridiculous, but like it's a fun time, you know? Were you happy with your reading year? What will you do different next year? I think I am happy with my reading year. I definitely do wish I could have like more 5 stars. I think next year I'm not going to focus as much on my physical TBR like I was, so maybe I won't read as much fantasy, but I'll read more thriller, as I think that is my favorite over fantasy. So I'll definitely be doing more like library books than I did this year, and just not pressuring myself to read what's on my TBR cart only, even though it was nice to make that pile smaller. I can't really think right now of anything else that I'm gonna do differently. I guess I would love to participate in more bookish events, whether it's readathons or buddy reads or things like that, because I really was just staying in my own lane this year. So I would love to participate in more of those, and maybe not schedule my reading so far in advance so that I don't feel like I can participate. Favorite video you made in 2023? So one of the video series that I've enjoyed making this year are my day in the life vlogs. I think I call them day in the life with a reader, diabetic, Toronto girly. Those are just a couple aspects of my life that I show in those videos. So I've enjoyed doing those because it's fun to just film the whole day. And I kind of like being able to show a little bit more of my life, like not just my reading updates, but also what it's like to live with type 1 diabetes, which is a 24-hour medical condition you have to manage. So I've liked doing that. I also enjoy doing my TBR themes. So like my cat picks my TBR, my Spotify shuffle picks my TBR, like tarot cards. I really liked doing those themes, and I was doing them every other month last year, and I think I'm gonna keep doing that, or maybe do it every month next year because I thought it was quite fun. I also liked just tooting my own horn, I also like doing the ARC reading vlog. I know some other people do this kind of theme. I normally don't because I don't request that many ARCs, but I did have fun when I actually did do a full ARC reading vlog for YA thrillers that I had received the ARC from. So I thought that was fun. Book you're most anticipating for 2024. This is gonna be the last question I answer. The Reappearance of Rachel Price by Holly Jackson. Obviously, this is gonna be my most anticipated. It's a new thriller from her. I think it's about, what is it about? Like someone that goes missing and then they reappear. Obviously, but I think that's an interesting concept, and so I'm sure she'll do an amazing job with it, and I'll probably do a full vlog dedicated to it because why not? Also, Middle of the Night by Riley Sager. Again, he's my king. I love every single thriller he does, and I do not remember the plot of this one. And then we have The Fury by Alex Michaelides. I have loved his 2 previous thrillers and given them both 5 stars. That's the author of The Silent Patient, so of course I would love to read his next one. It's been a minute since his last release, so very intrigued about that. Before this video gets any longer, I'm gonna sign off. Thank you guys so much for watching. Feel free to answer any of these questions in the comments below, or let me know if you have thoughts on any of these things. Follow me on Goodreads and my Instagram account to keep up with me in between videos. But otherwise, thank you for watching, and I'll catch you next time. Bye!